Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everybody in person. I was saying I feel like I'm new to this position because this is the first meeting that we've had in person in 3 years as a SEAC, and since I've taken over the responsibilities of SEAC. So it's really a pleasure to get to meet some people that we've been conversing with online. It's always interesting to see people in person. You're like, oh, are you shorter? Are you taller? What's the deal, right? So I really, really do appreciate being able to meet those members that we've worked with. And I'm also really excited to invite so many new faces to the table as well. I'm just so pleased that there's such an interest in special education and that you're making the time and commitment to be part of the excellent work that happens at our SEAC table. So we will take some time further in our agenda to introduce ourselves, but I do really want to start with a warm welcome to everybody that's participating in our SEAC moving forward. So we are going to begin with our prayer and the land acknowledgement. And I do want to remind all members that the meeting is being recorded. So just so that you're aware, and then we will post the meeting following our SEAC meeting this evening. And you'll note that I press the button here with the hand. And we will ask that if you are participating in the meeting that you do use the mic, because that's how we're able to record the meeting for the recording that will be posted through Teams. Okay. So let's begin with our opening prayer. The prayers that we will be using this evening are the opening and closing prayers that we use for all of our SEAC meetings. They will be displayed on the screen, and they're also found in your SEAC guidelines. So I know that we sent a number of resources and links. The one that we did choose to print for all of you is our guideline, which we adopted in 2021, and we'll speak to it as the meeting goes on. So right at the beginning, first page is the opening prayer. So I'd ask that you please join with me as we read through. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. We come together in hope from different community groups, answering the same call to service, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in gratitude for the trust placed in us, for the opportunity to serve, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in respect, aware of our diversity, willing to work for the good, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in awe of the wonder and beauty of each of God's children, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in God's name, and as we work together toward the same goal, each piece of the puzzle begins to fit neatly into place, creating a breathtaking picture of love, compassion, courage, and grace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And now for our land acknowledgement.
Each of us has a relationship to the natural environment, the land, water, earth, the habitat, and ecosystems. Land acknowledgements provide us with an opportunity to offer recognition, respect to the original inhabitants of the regions that we live in and work on. There are many things that we can do to go beyond simply reading a land acknowledgement script. To make it more meaningful, we need to consider that we are in fact acknowledging not only the ancestral lands, but also the historical and complex intersections of settler impacts on Indigenous histories, economies, ecologies, livelihood, well-being, and governance structures. A territorial acknowledgement is not an endpoint in the journey of reconciliation. Actions create conditions for true reconciliation and create a foundation for restoring, renewing, or developing a new relationship with Indigenous peoples. For hundreds of years, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Attawaddaron, the Potawatomi, the Wendat, and Lenape nations have sought to walk gently on this land. They assisted the first European travelers to this territory and shared their knowledge for survival in what was, at times, a harsh climate. Under consultations from elders, knowledge holders from the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and 6 nations of the Grand River Territory, The Indigenous Education Advisory Committee, along with Halton Catholic District School Board, created this land acknowledgement.
Halton, as we know it today,
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis.
From the lands of the Anishinaabe,
to the Attawandaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis.
These lands surrounding the Great Lake
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today
on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters
to honor and respect the four directions. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. We'll continue on with the agenda, and the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover to approve the agenda?
I can move it.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder to approve the agenda?
I can second.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda are SEAC introductions. So I thought it would be important to take some time to go around and to identify yourself. I think it would be helpful to know what your name is. We can see your card, but if you want to share your name, your role as an association rep, a member at large, or a trustee. If you're a returning member to SEAC, I think that would be helpful. If you're a new member to SEAC, and if you want to tell us a little bit about your interest in being part of SEAC. So I do have a list, so I can go through our list. That might be a little more helpful if we could start with Tracy. Is Tracy Veal here? No? Okay. And did she send her regrets? Absent? Nope. And next we have Amanda.
Okay, I'm Amanda Demeto-Wallace-Chuck, and I am an association rep for Easter Seals. And this is my first time in any kind of setting like this, so I'm very excited, but also definitely a little anxious. My interest in SEAC is I do have a daughter with cerebral palsy and a couple other disabilities, and I just love advocating and looking out for these kids, and I just have something in my heart said that I wanted to get involved in something like this, and the opportunity came up, and I'm just so thrilled.
Welcome, Amanda, and thank you. And no need to be nervous. I know we're in the boardroom. We always all get a little nervous when we come into the boardroom. But really, this is an opportunity just to engage with other people who have similar interests. So please don't feel nervous about that. Rick.
Hi, my name is Rick Barrero. I'm the member for Voice for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children. I've been a part of SEAC since 2016. I've been the primary since 2018. I was vice chair in the the last session for SEAC, and I've got a child. I've got a daughter who's bilateral cochlear implants in grade 7, and I've been involved with SEAC since 2016, trying to be involved with as many subcommittees as possible, just trying to become more knowledgeable, more helpful, more input into the whole process of special education, and do what I can to help make positive changes.
Thank you very much, Rick. And Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica Lim. I'm returning representing ABC for the gifted students. I used to be alternate rep. I'm happy to be returning as the main rep. I do have my alternate rep who is always in teamwork with me. My passion for special education is not only because of my 2 children who are gifted, but it is a calling for me. I'm a special educator myself. I really believe that all students, whether they have diverse needs or not, really do need to reach their full potential. So I'm really excited to be back here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Welcome back. Tiana.
Hi, my name is Tiana Aruda Newens.
I'm representing OPVIC, Ontario Parents for Visually Impaired Children. I did have a visually impaired child that went through the school board here. And I have another child who has not been tested yet, we're waiting. So I have visual impairment. And I think it's, I mean, we do have schools out there that focus on that, but I think we want integration, right? We want the kids to be able to be with their friends and be able to do things together. So to me, it is important to get involved and see what we can do to help these kids be integrated and enjoy each other.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Or Tiana, sorry. Mandy?
Hi, my name's Mandy Olkar. So I'm new. This is my first time attending the meetings. So I'm the Director of Community Partnerships for Halton Down Syndrome Association, and I have a daughter who has Down syndrome who's about 7.5 right now. And my interest is in just helping gain knowledge between Halton Down Syndrome Association and bring their needs and requests to the board and back and forth, and gain personal knowledge as well as just being more involved in the community that supports us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Abiola.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abiola Adedeji. This is my first time here, and I'm really excited to be with you here. My interest in SEAC is, well, I have a son also with a little disability. Apart from that, I also have a community of new immigrants who are struggling settling into the community, and we have some in the our region. And I'm hoping that I can help educate them and also share knowledge about what SEAC is doing to help integrate their children in school, and how they can also support the board or their child to reach their full potentials. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Abiola. And Abiola is our member at large. No problem. And Andrea.
Hello, Andrea Lucarici. I'm a returning member with SEAC. I'm a member at large. I also manage our Twitter account, so please follow us on Twitter. And I do represent SEAC on our bullying prevention committee as well, the school board, which is fantastic to be part of that. And I just love being part of this. I think it's really important to advocate for our children. I do have a daughter who has ADHD and comorbidities with the school board. So anything I can do to help her and other kids as well.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Nice to have you back. Trustee Agnew.
My name is Brenda Agnew. I'm starting my third term with SEAC and here in a trustee capacity. I have 2 children in our system, almost down to 1. My older one will be leaving next year for school. My younger son has multiple exceptionalities, including cerebral palsy and deaf and hard of hearing. I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm always grateful for the opportunity to learn and to learn more about the different exceptionalities within our system, and just to try to find ways to ensure that all of our students have the resources and the supports that they need to be successful, whatever that might look like. And I'm always, happy to learn. So again, grateful to be here, and it's wonderful to meet everybody. So happy to be back in person, and to see all these faces is really something else.
Thank you so much. And we have Trustee Powell.
Hi, I'm Trish Nichols-Powell. I'm brand new, so I feel the same. I'm new to trustee. I'm new to SEAC. I'm not new to special ed. I have 4 boys, ages 15 to 25. My oldest is 25. And our younger 2 are both on the autism spectrum with multiple extra needs. And we also have a boy who's gifted as well. Hates school though, but we got him through it. That one we got him through. So it's if I can do anything to help anyone else experience what we have had a wonderful experience. It's been tough, it's been challenging. I can be a real pain in the butt, but I also respect and appreciate what the school board does for my kids. And speaking of kids, our 3rd boy is graduating grade 12 as well, and just got an honor roll certificate. And we were actually told he will never go into mainstream school. And thanks to the certs and EAs here at the Catholic Board. Yeah, he's graduating with honors. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, and thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. We also have our alternate reps. Rhonda, you would like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. Rhonda Cannell. I'm the alternate for Voice for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children. I'm Rick's alternate over here. I think I'm the oldest member here. I've been here since 1999. So I don't know how many terms that is, but it's a long time. And I'm happy to be here. And I could almost say exactly what Tricia said. My son graduated with honors too, with multiple exceptionalities. So I'm really, really happy just to be here to advise and to, I'm very humble to be here actually to advise and to give whatever wisdom I can share. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this next term. Probably my last, Rick, sorry. I know. But really, anyways, so yeah, and I'm really happy to see everyone. Nice to see your faces, and I look forward to working with you over the next couple of years. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. Nice to meet you in person. Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Saunders. I'm the trustee for Oakville Wards 4 and 7. I have two children who have progressed through the special education program. Our journey began before the turn of the century, so a lot of the structures that are in place now weren't in place then. So we've had a lot of experience, and we see things develop over the years. So that's my interest, and I certainly hope I can bring that perspective to the discussion and hopefully add a little something to the committee.
Thank you, Trustee Saunders and Trustee Murphy.
Hi, my name's Emma. I'm trustee for Milton Wards 2 and 3. So this is my first experience at SEAC. My background is in education. I worked for the Toronto Catholic School Board for 10 years. So I'm just really interested to learn more about the Halton Catholic School Board and the services that we offer the children, and just learning more about how to advocate for their needs, whatever that may be. And I'm glad to be here in person too. It's nice to see all of you.
Thank you so much. And I believe Chris Pereira's not here. Maria.
Hi, my name's Maria Lorenko, and I'm also returning for my third term. This time as alternate. The first two, I was main rep. Jessica joined me last term as my alternate, but as she said, we really work as partners here. And through the years, I've participated on many subcommittees, represented SEAC at different committees. I was vice chair for a year as well. And my interest in being here, so I have two children. They're both out of the system now. They're both in university. My oldest was identified gifted. And if it wasn't for ABC Ontario, I wouldn't have known there was such a thing. Despite, raising concerns about lack of challenge and disengagement and such in the earlier years. And I found the process to be overwhelming and challenging. And so my interest in coming here was to hopefully make the way a little bit easier for the parents that were coming after me, either both by giving feedback here, bringing that perspective, and by being available to other parents who might need assistance. And actually, that's how Jessica and I met, and she became a part of ABC. And since becoming a SEAC member here, I have served on the board of directors for ABC. I was provincial SEAC coordinator, represented them at PAC on SEAC, and I represent them at provincial level committee. Actually chair the Consortium for Ontario Gifted, which meets with the ministry. So it's become a real passion of mine. And I would just say to the new members, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, the staff that works in spec ed, and even those of us that have been around for a few years, there's a lot of acronyms, there's a lot of assumptions, right? But I know when I joined here, I was constantly putting my hand, what does that stand for? What does that mean, etc. And everybody's great about answering those questions, and that's how you learn. I've learned so much since I've been here, and I'm still learning. I know there's more to learn, and there's more work to be done, so I'm happy to be back.
Thank you, and welcome back, Maria. Next, we have Ali. I don't know if he's here. I don't think so. And Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela Santos, and I am brand new to this committee, and I'm humbled and honored to be here because it feels like it happened very quickly. But I've got 3 kids that are currently in the board, and my eldest just is in secondary school now, so we have transitioned from elementary to secondary, and she is diagnosed with special needs, and her special needs diagnosis are mental illness. And those diagnoses came hard and fast on our family. And we went through the process of getting an IEP for her and getting her supports in place while protecting the other 2 at home. And I immediately became passionate about learning what these supports were being offered to us. I'm in it right now, so I'm wanting to participate and excited to participate and offer any kind of personal experience or I'm not sure what would be the best to offer at the board, but I'm an alternate as well. So just passionate to be here and advocate for those kiddos at home.
Thank you very much, Angela. It's nice to have you join our SEAC. With regards to introductions, I'm just going to take a brief moment. So Angela, or lots of Angelas and lots of Andreas. Andrea Hughes is my administrative assistant, and she's been on a leave for a number of months. She's back with us this Wednesday, and we're happy to have her come back. But in her absence, we've had amazing support, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my sidekicks back here. We do have Sherry Garner, who's taken on much of the role, and as well, you may recognize Joan Crew. If you've been part of SEAC in the past, Joan retired from the position and has been back in her capacity to support our team a few days a week. And preparing for this has been really helpful. She's been through the inaugural SEAC a few times. I'm going to say maybe 3 times. So we certainly appreciate 4. She said she's not coming back for a 5th, but never say never. So I certainly appreciate both of their support. We also have Andrea Swindon with us, and some of you may know Andrea. She works in our strategic communications department, and she is super helpful when it comes to all things communication and helping with setup. And next to Andrea is Jody O'Reilly, and Jody you will get to know very well. She is the special education coordinator, and she is a lead in my department. So she and I work very closely together, and she works very closely with the consultants that are allocated to all of the schools across our system. So thank you to her as well. And she's often doing presentations for SEAC as well. She seems very far from me right now. This is our first, yeah, it's right here. This is our first in-person meeting, so it's funny to see her all the way over there, but we'll be okay. I also would like to give Director Klein the opportunity to introduce himself.
We've met before virtually, so yeah, I would say it's a big wide expanse to where Andrea is right here, and I guess I want to say, first of all, I feel kind of new as well, not as new as some of you, but I still feel new at being, what, 2.5, it's nearly 3 months into this job. And it's a real honor to be the Director of Education for Halton. The stories that we've heard already just in the introductions, I think, reflect what the gift of Catholic education is and the gift of Halton Catholic District School Board is. So it wasn't too long before we heard multiple stories about people whose stories talk about our young people whose lives have been transformed by the collective efforts of a whole array of professionals and paraprofessionals. We often say teacher, teacher, teacher when it comes to schools, but when it comes to special education, it really is a meeting point for speech and language pathologists and CDAs and CYWs and et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole alphabet soup. It's a whole new way of speaking, isn't it? Not to mention all the PPMs and the regs and all those other ones. It's a little intimidating, but you do get used to it. More importantly, it speaks to the power of a school system that is confident enough to rely and lean on all those people and their different skills to be able to hopefully have confidence to step back as a professional to say, this is your turn to kind of kick in here and to be honestly collaborative. And I think most importantly, the stories that you've shared so far, and I think are at the heart of special education, is hope. So in the end, parenting is extremely tough work. I can say that as a father of 3. And so it would be much worse if we knew we were alone in this. And again, Viola's talking about referencing new Canadians as well. Add that to the mix in many ways, one more struggle for people, particularly when they're coming from very far away in different cultures. And yet we are here, and we've been here for many years, and we continue to work together. We're not perfect, but we're striving to be perfect, and we can only do that if we rely on all of you. So at the heart of what I want to say is thank you, and thank you for all that you do, for bringing your commitment, for bringing your kindness and your expertise to the conversation. And thank you again for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think all of you know me. I am Superintendent Ballo. I'm Stephanie, and it's my pleasure. This is my 3rd year in this portfolio. So this is my 5th year as a superintendent. Prior to having the special education portfolio, I had policy and family of schools. I've been in the board for 29 years, principal in 4 different schools, always extremely passionate about special education. I was a special education resource teacher prior to going into administration, so I've lived it for many years. I also had responsibilities for gifted programming in 2 schools. We have 3 schools, 3 elementary schools across the system that have gifted programming, and I was responsible for that at St. Peter and Milton, as well as St. Andrew and Oakville. Special education is a very special place. The people are so committed, the staff is amazing, and it's such a collaborative and opportunity to come together and support. So I feel very privileged to hold that responsibility. So thank you everybody for participating in the introductions. Moving along in our agenda, and item number 2 is declarations of conflict of interest. We don't have any action items other than the chair and vice chair. So we're going to move along to item 3. We have 2 items to be taken, actions to be taken. Number 3.1 is the election of SEAC chair, and 3.2 is the election of SEAC vice chair. In order to be nominated, you do need to be in attendance, either in person or online. And I don't think we have anyone joining us online this evening. We've got a couple absences, and they're alt members. Actually, Tracy Beal is not. In order, I mentioned that, only the main representative has the opportunity to vote if we do need to go to a vote. And I just wanted to take the opportunity, because we are going to do the orientation and the information following the vote, just to review what the roles and responsibilities are of the chair and vice chair before we walk down that path. So with regards to the responsibilities of the chair of the SEAC shall carry out the duties of chair when presiding at meetings using protocols based on Robert's rules. The chair is responsible for setting meeting agendas based on the input received from SEAC members in consultation with the appropriate staff members. The chair will review the meeting minutes, track future agenda items, ensure timelines and time limits during our meetings, and the chair may vote with the other members of the committee. The process of electing the chair and vice chair, as an overview, the elections take place annually. So in a typical year, we will go through an election process every January. It's different at this point because it's a new SEAC that's being put together. So then that would happen in December. The appointment will be for a 1-year term. Nominations can be put forward by any SEAC representatives or an alternate representative if the main representative is absent. Each nomination shall require a mover and a seconder, and we'll work through that process. Nominees shall confirm if they accept the nomination, just so you have that information in advance. In the case of multiple nominations, we will vote using a ballot system. Ballots are counted by 2 scrutineers, which will serve myself and our coordinator, Jody O'Reilly. And then the result of the ballot declares the member elected if we go down that pathway. The process for holding a meeting in the absence of chair and vice chair, so you're aware as part of the role, is that the vice chair would chair a meeting in the absence of a chair. The vice chair chairs the meeting in absence. And in absence of both a chair and a vice chair, the meeting is chaired by a previous chair or vice chair or a member selected by the committee. I know my experience has typically been a member selected by the committee. So with that said, as mentioned, if we have more than one nomination, a vote by secret ballot will take place. I've already indicated who the scrutineers will be and tabulate the ballots. We will follow the board bylaws. Members will cast their vote by means of secret ballot or by an email to Jody O'Reilly, which I don't think is the case this evening, who shall make the vote on a paper ballot in the same form and manner as though the ballots had been marked in person. I will now call, so we're going to start the process here. I will now call for the nominations for Chair of the Special Education Advisory Committee for the term of December 2022 to December 2023.
I'd like to nominate Brenda Agnew for chair.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second
Trustee Agnew, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, sure. I'll accept it. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for the chair of SEAC? I'm now making a final call for nominations. Hearing no other nominations, it does affirm that Trustee Brenda Agnew will be the chair of the Special Education Advisory Committee for the term of December 2022 to December of 2023. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, everyone. As always, I'll try my very best to be the best chair that I can. And certainly, anything you need, if I can help you at all. I too have had to navigate many processes in the last number of years, and I'm happy to help you, whether that be navigating a SEAC meeting or just navigating any type of process within our system. So thank you very much. I really, really, really look forward to the next year ahead. As I said, we have some new faces, we have some new representation here for associations we haven't had before, and I'm thrilled to be working with all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you and congratulations again. May I ask for a mover and a seconder to close the nominations? Can we get a mover to close the nomination?
I'll move it.
Andrea, was that you?
No, it was me.
Oh, sorry. Jessica? I'll second it. Thank you. Now we'll move on to vice chair. I will call for the nominations for vice chair of the Special Education Advisory Committee for the term of December 2022 to December 2023.
I think Rick did a great job last term. I'd like to nominate Rick again.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a seconder. Rick, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I accept the nomination.
Are there any other nominations for the vice chair of SEAC? I'm now making a final call for nominations. Hearing no other nominations, it does affirm that Rick will be the vice chair of SEAC for the term of December 2022 to December 2023. Congratulations. Is there anything that you would like to say?
Just thank you for the nomination. I'll do my best to fill the role of vice chair and help out and contribute any way I can.
Excellent. Thank you very much. May I ask for a mover and a seconder to close the nomination? So mover.
I'll move it.
Thank you. And a seconder. You. We're becoming pros now. And that is the end of my work. So now, thanks. Now I'll hand the meeting over to Chair Trustee Agnew. Of course, and you can both move to these seats. Thank you. There are cookies. We've got some gingerbread.
you see this red light right here? Do you see, I don't know if you see my hand movement, but there's a red light there. Hi, everyone. We're just going to start. All right, thanks, everyone. My time will be short-lived for a moment because we're going to pass it back over to Superintendent Ballo, who's going to run us through a SEAC orientation presentation. For the purpose of the presentation, would you prefer that questions remain at the end or during? How do you want to handle that? Okay, perfect. So if you have a question, if you can just put your hand up and just wait to be acknowledged, and then I'll go ahead and acknowledge you, and you can put your microphone and then ask your questions. So I'll turn it over to you, Superintendent Ballo.
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. So we do have the orientation package. You would have received it with the meeting information that went out last Thursday. I'm just waiting for the next slide. I'm going to give her a signal. Okay, great. I'm going to follow on this one instead. Perfect. Sure. Can you enlarge it? All right, there we go. So the presentation, there's quite a bit of information, and I do recognize that when we sent the package out last Thursday, we tried to, and you'll see in this presentation as well, we tried to put together the resources that kind of go together. We certainly don't expect that you're going to be familiar with all of the information that's been provided. There's, no quiz at the end of this presentation. It's really there to help guide you without having to do a lot of sort of Google search. These are the references that we use most often, and I think it's important that we're all using the same types of references. So our SEAC meetings take place once a month from September to June. They are generally on Monday evenings, almost always. We might have one that ends up being on a Tuesday because of a long weekend, but they are typically on a Monday evening at 7. They don't run any later than 9 p.m. Our meetings are taking place in person, and as I indicated earlier, we've had our meetings virtually for this is into the third year now. They will always be located here in the main boardroom of our CEC. And in addition, a Teams meeting invite is sent for all of the meetings. If there's a reason why you would not be able to attend in person, it might be helpful just to let our secretary know anyway. So we'll make sure that you can hear and that you're all set up for at home. But we will be hosting our meetings in person. The dates and membership of the SEAC can be located on our SEAC homepage. And I do think it's worth taking a moment to go onto the page, and you can see that it's a very useful page for SEAC. And for any parent that's looking to become familiar with what the Special Education Advisory Committee is all about. And Sherry has opened the page. You do have the link right in your PowerPoint. It does provide an overview on that page with regards to what SEAC's mandate is. And the very first paragraph there is that SEAC's mandate is to make recommendations to the HCDSB in matters affecting the establishment and development of special education programs and services for students with exceptional needs. And it outlines the membership there as well. What we've included is some information with regards to what happens with the meetings. As I said, they do get recorded and they can be viewed on the YouTube channel. You always have the opportunity to go back. They've all been posted if you'd like to see what's happened at a prior SEAC meeting. Members of the public, as well as worth noting, are welcome to send questions in advance of a SEAC meeting. And there's a website or an email that's been created should someone approach you, and you can direct them to use that email address. And we need the questions by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. That helps us prepare to respond to what that question is. So I do believe we added that a few years ago. SEAC meetings, again, has already been reviewed about when they take place. And you can see that we've updated the dates that are on the website. So all of the meeting dates are listed there for your information if you're ever wondering and you want to put them in your calendar moving ahead. We did intentionally send you the link only for tonight because, as I said, Andrea Hughes will be back on Wednesday. Then she can create them and she can manipulate them moving forward. So those are the dates should you want the dates in advance of her sending the remainder of the meeting invitations. We have included there's an example of what the meetings look like, what the link looks like. At the end of June, we do a special presentation and it's a year in review. And there was a request by SEAC actually to post that video so that families, we really do look at this as a landing page for potential families. They do have the opportunity to watch the video. I won't play it this evening, but if you haven't had the opportunity, it's a slideshow of all of the excellent events that have taken place over the course of last year, and we do it at the end of every school year. There is a piece there around SEAC sound bites, and these sound bites have been written by our SEAC members, and that might be something that we talk about at a future meeting. And there are a few things, that as we move through the information that we won't necessarily get to tonight because there's a lot of information, but already sort of building an agenda for a future meeting. So SEAC sound bites are listed there, and you can see what the latest sound bites are, and they're typically a piece of information, a bite of information that is created around a specific exceptionality, how to navigate a process. And then what we do is we share those SEAC sound bites with our schools, and many of you will have seen that we have weekly communication that comes out of our schools. So we'll ask our school communities to include that information on their weekly communication. We're always trying to get out to the school level, and that's an excellent way to do so. So don't be surprised if we continue with the SEAC sound bites. There will be an invitation to participate in that. It might be something of interest to you. You may already have an idea of something that you could share. What we've included as well is we've updated our SEAC membership. It's sort of a preliminary list at this point. It does include everyone who's here. We did not include the email addresses, and we typically do. I think that what we need to do is confirm that you're okay with having your email address because we do have a number of new people. And we have been emailing you already. So if that email works well for you, we'll just leave it. If for some reason you'd prefer that we post a different email, sometimes people use their work or a personal, just confirm that. You can confirm that with Sherry Garner, and we'll make sure that we're posting the email that you prefer. And then we have also updated the page to include the SEAC guidelines. And then there's, a little bit of information there around assistance and who you can contact. So going back to our presentation, the other link that's included there on the main page is the SEAC guidelines and code of conduct. And you have a hard copy of that document. We thought of all of the documents, that's probably the best one to provide you with. We're not going to go into every single page because there is quite a bit of information there. But what I do, and there are some other slides where we've pulled content from the guidelines. I do think it's worth taking a look at the table of contents. And the way that the guidelines came to be is it came right from our SEAC. We didn't have SEAC guidelines. And then in 2021, we formed a subcommittee, and there were quite a few people who put their names forward who helped develop those guidelines. And then they were adopted by our SEAC. And I think that they've been very helpful, and we've gone back to them a number of times. And another item that we might want to consider for a future meeting is maybe taking a review of the guidelines, because we implemented them, we've now had them in use, and there might be a few things I know, even in some of the conversations that we've had, where we might want to go back and take a look at the guidelines again, just to do an annual review now that we've used them, to say, is there anything that we would need to adjust? Do they suit our purposes? And when you take a look at the table of contents, there's information there around members, the purpose of SEAC, the special education plan, which we'll get into in a different slide, the budget process, roles and responsibilities, meeting times, location, procedures for the selection of members and filling vacancies, the term of office, SEAC subcommittees, which we probably will speak about tonight as well, a preparation list for SEAC members, communication tips, guiding principles to build credibility, mutual respect, and a spirit of collaboration. And I think I really heard that this evening in even all our introductions. That's really what the spirit of this committee is. Tips for effective advocacy, protocols. There's information there around making motions. We don't typically make many motions, but we do have how to do so. So if there's an opportunity where we would need to reference that, resources and special education definitions, including all of the acronyms. So it's been alluded to a few times, but we like our acronyms in special education. So it is a really nice little glossary to help navigate what's happening. And a standing item on our agenda are presentations. So very often our staff, and we invite you as well, will do a presentation for SEAC. And we really try to be user-friendly in those presentations, but if you ever needed a list, it's there. So just moving on. That was the link, and I already spoke to that. And the special education annual plan, we're going to speak to that a little bit later, but that is one of the responsibilities that SEAC is involved in. If you do bring your tech and you want to sign in, there is an opportunity there. That's a bit of a housekeeping. I also want to point out, because this is our first in-person washroom, if you walk through these doors to the right, there is a washroom there. And this way is a little kitchenette if you need water, and we do have some refreshments out if you need those as well. The meeting package does get sent to all of SEAC, typically almost always on the Thursday before a SEAC meeting. So you've got about 5 days to review the materials. Do your best. Nobody's expecting that you're going to come to the table an expert, but really it's provided to you so you know what's happening and you can follow along in the meeting or ask any questions. In terms of our members, we have 6 association reps and 3 alternate reps. That's as of today. And I say that because there is an opportunity to add association reps if an association is not currently represented on SEAC. So we do have some associations who were not able to find someone who met the qualifications, but they're still actively looking. So it's not uncommon to bring someone forward in terms of a vacancy. We have 2 community members at large and 2 alternate reps. We have 2 trustees and 2 alternates. And we are currently comprised of 10 voting members and 7 alt members. And as I noted earlier, an alt member is a voting member in the absence of the SEAC representative. We are not going to get into too many, but I just wanted to review how we have categorized all of the links that we've shared with you that you can take a look at on your own time. So you'll see that that slide speaks to the HCDSB references. We have our mission statement. I already showed you the SEAC page. We have a special education page. If you want to click on that one, Sherry, that'd be great. And the special education page speaks to programs and services that are offered in our board. So oftentimes parents will go to that page, or any of you can go to the page as well. It's more around the content of what our program options look like and any information that would be helpful. And you can go back, Sherry. The joy of using live links. So moving right along, I already spoke to the guidelines. The Parent Guide to Special Education, if you could click on that one. This is the guide that we provide to parents, typically when their child may come back with an identification or an exceptionality of any type. And it really walks families through what the process is in terms of the different exceptionalities, an IPRC, how to appeal, an IEP. It's a very sort of technical document, but it is an excellent document. And we just updated it maybe a year or two ago. And the information is there. So it is a resource that we offer parents. So if you have a parent who comes to you and they want some information around how to navigate the system with their own child who may be newly identified, this is a reference that you can point them to. We have it posted on our website, and we also give a hard copy of this document to families. And then our special education annual plan, we'll go to that in a few slides. We won't stop at this point because we have a few slides on it. Thanks, Sherry. And then the next list are websites that speak specifically to ministry guidelines when it comes to SEAC. So we have a link there. It's a government page, and it speaks to the overview of SEAC, committee membership, roles and responsibilities, orientation and training, which is what we're doing right now, and rules and procedures for SEAC meetings. You can go to the next slide. And then there are additional Education Act related items there. So the Special Education Information and Regulations, Regulation 46497, which speaks specifically to SEAC and what the roles and responsibilities are in terms of membership, attendance, and so on. And then Regulation 306 speaks to special education programs and services. This list speaks to education policies and programming. So these are the guiding documents that our school staff would use when they are implementing any programs in schools. So we have our PPM pertaining to students with special education needs, the Education Ontario Policy and Program Direction, and the Learning for All K-12 document, which is used very frequently. And last but not least is PAC on SEAC. So that's a provincial organization, and it stands for the Provincial Parent Associations Committee. And there's a link there to a very helpful handbook that they created. And we really incorporate a lot of what they suggest and what their guidance is in the work that we do here at SEAC. A suggestion I would make is if we are interested, we can invite PAC on SEAC to come to a future meeting. I know this is my third year and we haven't had them attend, but if that was an area of interest, we could invite them for a future presentation and they can just speak to SEACs at large. So with respect to the role of SEAC, there are a number of requirements, and highlighted there are the key requirements that are set out in Regulation 46497. One is to provide important advice on special education to their local board or school authority, comprises of trustees and representatives of local associations and community members that further the interests and well-being of exceptional children or adults. Make recommendations to the board on any matter affecting the establishment, development, and delivery of special education programs and services for exceptional students. SEAC is provided with the opportunity to participate in the annual review of the special education plan, and we'll get to that in a little while. You do have the opportunity to participate in the board's annual process, budget process, as it relates to special education. That will include reviewing final or financial statements of the board as they relate to special education. And we do have the opportunity to have our superintendent Lofts. He's the superintendent of business. He will be coming. I've already invited him and he's accepted to do a budget 101 session in February. So he'll come and he'll talk about, funding for special education. And then he'll be back in May typically, and he brings more specific information that pertains to our special education budget. So you'll have two opportunities to be able to ask questions and become more familiar, especially as a new SEAC, many of you are. Recommendations from SEAC may be presented to the Board of Trustees through a resolution. We have noted that in our guidelines. SEAC should also have opportunities to comment on policies or programs that will impact students with special education needs and make presentations to any related committees. And we have had, not on this agenda today, but we have had a number of policies that have come to the SEAC table for input and feedback from the members. With regards to SEAC meetings, as I said, we have 10 meetings a year. The agendas are provided in advance to each meeting. The role of the chair and vice chair is to review the agenda before we send it out to all of you. We do have a number of different reports that can be added to the agenda. So a subcommittee, an association, and a communication report. There's a specific template that is used for those reports, and perhaps we can talk about that at a future meeting, give some examples of what types of reports we've had. I'm mindful of not giving you too much information, but I do think that it would be helpful to share some examples of reports that members have brought forward. The templates for reports to be included on the agenda are distributed prior to each meeting. Reports are added to the agenda and they have to be submitted 10 days in advance. They are submitted directly to Andrea Hughes, my admin assistant, and shared with our chair and vice chair, and then we add those to the agenda. A majority of the members of a SEAC is a quorum. So in order to have the appropriate number, we need to have 50%. A vote of a majority of the members present at a meeting is necessary to bind the committee. So quorum is over 50, so 50 plus 1 typically. An annual calendar is drafted to include mandatory annual items and SEAC goals, objectives, and interests. So we already created and shared that calendar in September. There have been a few changes already, including this is an orientation session, which none of us who have been through this knew block off December for that reason. So we have updated, we're working on a draft update. So for our January meeting, we'll bring an updated calendar for all of you, which will lay out some of those pieces that we typically do every single year. And then we also include suggestions for presentations that our staff can offer. I also think with it being a newer SEAC in January, I do plan to share a list of the presentations we've maybe done in the last 2 years so that you can see what presentations we've already done, if there are any presentations that might be worth repeating, and if you have any interest in any presentations that you might want to learn a little more about. So not today, but on a future meeting, I do think that would be an important exercise. So the principles and rules, the fundamental essence of a meeting is the equality of the members to initiate ideas, to oppose ideas, to do so without coercion. Courtesy and respect for others are demanded. All members have equal rights, privilege, and obligations. Members have a right to information to help inform decisions, and that's why we provide that information to you in advance if you're making any type of decision at the meeting. Members have the right to an efficient meeting. Each representative or alternate in a member's absence is entitled to 1 vote. The chair may vote with the other members of the committee, any motion of which there is an equality of votes is lost. The majority must be allowed to rule, and the minority have rights that must be respected. The right to information. A meeting generally trades nothing except information. It is the currency by which decisions are made, and appropriate and reliable information must be available to help make effective decisions. Each member in a meeting must have factual information upon which to make informed decisions, and information can be provided in many formats, such as presentations, the superintendent report, the trustee report, association communication and subcommittee reports. For our agenda this evening and for every agenda, I do a presentation, superintendent's presentation. It typically just provides highlights as to what's happened over the last month since our last meeting. And we also have a trustee report, which is about 5 minutes long, and it highlights any decisions or any highlights from the most recent board meetings since our last SEAC. So if there are 2 meetings, there might be some points from each of those meetings that speak to any decisions, a policy passed, et cetera, that's happened. The right of a member to hold their own opinion, it may be swayed through information, logical argument, but never ridiculed through words or actions of other members, and members' opinions must be respected and afforded the courtesy of a hearing. So that speaks to courtesy and respect, the right to an efficient meeting, so being organized, being on time, having the agenda, following the agenda, and then members maintaining adherence to the subject of debate or may be called to order if their words are not germane to the subject. So they should be related to what we're talking about, or you hold your point. Absenteeism, members who are unable to attend a SEAC. If you're unable to attend, you should inform the chair, the recording secretary, and their alternate representative. So you would notify the chair. You can notify me if you'd like, but you should also notify Andrea Hughes. And once she comes back and starts sending you information, you'll have her email as well. And absenteeism motion is put forth at each meeting to excuse members who have informed of their absence. And if you haven't informed, then we don't make that motion. And then we already went through the election and role of the chair and vice chair, and I already read the highlights prior to taking the vote. So I think we can move past that. And then SEAC representative updates on committee, another item that is typically on our agenda, and I did not include it for this meeting, are updates from SEAC representatives who are on various committees. And it didn't make sense to do so because I think part of our conversation, and this is just an example, I think part of the conversation, potential discussion will be to generate interest in some of the committees. I can give you some information about the committees just so you've got a sense and determine if you're interested. So we have a mental health and well-being advisory steering committee. My responsibilities are for special education and student mental health. So I'm part of the advisory steering committee. We have had representatives from SEAC in the past be part of that advisory. The advisory meets 3 times a year. So the first meeting has already passed. There will be 2 more meetings, and they're usually from 2 to 4 on a weekday. The de-streaming committee, we have not had any meetings this year. There is one that is planned for January. I don't have the specific date, but that's what was shared with me. Bullying Prevention and Intervention Committee was added to the list, I believe in the fall. The Spirit of Inclusion Selection Committee, I also still think it can wait till January, but we do have a Spirit of Inclusion process whereby we select several students from elementary, secondary, adult learning to receive the Spirit of Inclusion Award. And we form a subcommittee from this table and we go through the applications. Every single school in the system has the opportunity to put forward a recommendation, and they all do, for one student that they select from their school to put forward. And then the subcommittee has the opportunity to go through all of the applications and identify the one elementary, one secondary, and a student from Thomas Merton from our Adult Learning Center. And then when we have the annual awards of excellence in usually April, we also recognize our Spirit of Inclusion recipients at that time. So that's something I think it can wait till January. The memo's already gone out to the system. We're getting names. It doesn't take very much time. We met one time last year and it was a fairly quick meeting. We reviewed the nominations. So just so you know, around time commitment. I've also included there 2 others. I've italicized them because they were included in the pending items. From a prior meeting, we talked about putting together an accessibility committee. We do have an accessibility plan as a school board. So we will be looking for some representation or participation in that process. I don't know that we've determined exactly what it's going to look like, but there will be an opportunity for some membership there. And then inclusive recreation. Again, I italicized that. It was on our pending items or business arising. And we've had a conversation again, of what is that going to look like? Is it going to be a standalone? Is it going to work with staff in a different capacity? I simply wanted to give you an idea of some of the committees that we've had and will potentially. We had 2 E&I committees, and I have confirmed with our supervisor of equity and inclusion that they don't need any representation at this time. So I've removed those from the list. For anybody who's been here, they'll see that they're not there. These are the ones that are confirmed at this time. And if there's any other opportunity, from board meetings or in the work that I do, or our trustees are always great at that as well, or any of you, to suggest that a SEAC member be involved in a particular committee that's struck. That happens quite all the time. And we do welcome that. So just so you're aware. And then the special education plan. According to the regulations, the board shall ensure that a SEAC is provided with the opportunity to participate in the board's annual review, and that actually could be added as a subcommittee. We did form a subcommittee last year, and there's the link. Sure, you can hit that link now if you'd like. This is our special education annual plan. It's submitted to the Ministry of Education by the 31st of July every year. And the process that we've taken the last 2 years is we formed a subcommittee. We brought to this table any recommended changes to the plan and then shared those changes at this table. And if anybody had any feedback on the recommended changes or the plan, we also sent a Microsoft form. So if on your own time you wanted to take a look at the plan and make any recommendations, you could do that as well. Really trying to give as many opportunities and options that work. We're mindful that people have other things that they need to do as well. So we are trying to make it work for your schedules. And it's a very dense document, and it includes all of the information with regards to special education programs in our system. There is a section on SEAC as well in the plan. All of your names are listed in the plan and contact information as well. It's posted on our board public website. And then I mentioned budget. I think there's only one slide on budget. And those are the 2 presentation dates. The one is confirmed for February. I know there's a lot of information there, and I know there's a lot of knowledge in the room as well. So I certainly, I'm very open. There have been people in this room who've been on SEAC for a number of years. If there's anything that you think would be worth noting, I certainly welcome that opportunity from anyone.
So questions, Maria?
So a couple of questions, but also a couple of comments. You were mentioning about the absentees and that it's good to advise if you're not going to be here. But I think it's also important to recognize that the regulation does require that if you are absent more than 3 meetings without advising, that you vacate your seat. So if we're going to follow the regulation, that people should make sure they do, because they could be vacating their seat if they don't. And we don't want that to happen, I'm pretty sure. The other thing, I don't think that there was a lot of information provided, but I'm not sure if the board's bylaws were included there. And I think that, I know the bylaws, I haven't not looked at the new bylaws, but I think they do apply to SEAC still. So I think that would be a good thing to share. And I did have a question in that regard, because I said I haven't looked at them. Do the bylaws include a process for if, I know we haven't done this in the time I've been here, but we do, it is part of our role to potentially make a recommendation to the board. Do the bylaws include a process for if that happens, if SEAC makes a recommendation, what's the process? Because the board is required to respond. So how does that work? I don't know if that's in the bylaws.
All eyes are on. So I'm not sure, Maria, and I was thinking the same thing as that piece came up. I know that there had been some conversations previously with respect to the same conversations around CPIC. So I'm not sure. I'll take a quick look. I can look now, or I can look at them and get back to the committee and let you know. And if there is, I'll advise everybody. If there isn't, then certainly a conversation we should have. Yeah, Rhonda, go ahead.
I can speak historically that we have put it in the form of a motion, and that's how it went to the board. Correct, yeah.
So that's the way I read it too, but I'm wondering, you're looking for a more formalized process, Maria?
Well, it's more what happens after the motion. And because, and we're not the only advisory committee again on this board, right? CPIC is an advisory committee and school councils are advisory committees. And I've served on all of those. And we did have, CPIC did make a motion. So yes, the resolution went to the board, but I think it's still like hasn't really been fully resolved. And the motion was with respect to school councils. And it wasn't clear, the board, last I tuned in, and I haven't tuned in lately, so that's why I don't know if it's gotten further. But there was talk about, do we put it in the bylaws? Do we write a policy? There was like a lot of talk about how should we deal with this? So, you know, the more quickly that can be resolved, the better it is for all of these committees, if they do want to make a recommendation, because in the past it hasn't always worked well. So a process I think would be helpful.
No, yeah, I was going to just clarify, and I appreciate the comment that you made about the board bylaws. I think we definitely could add that to the list of our HCDSB resources. And I did reference them many times in preparing for the election of chair, vice chair. So I think that's a really valid point. We do have our guidelines, but we always defer to the board bylaws, especially when it comes to, you know, an agenda following any of those technical pieces. So I appreciate that suggestion.
Was there other questions? I have a couple comments, but I want to make sure that I open the floor. If anybody has any questions, comments, it's a lot to take in. So if you want to make notes and come back later, that's okay. The two things that I took note of as Stephanie was speaking was, one, I would definitely encourage any association to do presentations. You know, we've been doing everything online, which has been great, but it's hard to be engaged online. It's hard to, you know, have those conversations. And we have some new associations that are at the table, and we have some returning associations, and things change. Things have probably changed, you know, over the course of the last few years anyways. And it's been a while since we've had an association presentation. So I think it would be great. I think it would be, you know, if you're amiable to doing that, and your association is happy with that, just let us know. We can fit that into an agenda, and we can do a series of them over a series of meetings. So I would definitely encourage you to bring that back to your association about doing an association presentation. And the other piece as well is the encouragement around the association reports. And so, you know, we want to know what's going on. I mean, there's reports that come back that are like, there's a guest speaker that's happening, or there's a webinar that's going on, or there's a conference that's happening. Awareness days. We know that there's certain associations that have awareness days. You know, those are really vital pieces of information for us to know, not only as a SEAC committee, but for us to take back to the communities that we serve. So a great way to do that is through an association report. And again, there's a few different templates you're going to see, and please ask questions as you're going through, because sometimes it's hard to determine which one is for what. And they don't have to be lengthy. They could be simply, you know, it's Red Shirt Day this, you know, this particular week, and that's what this means. But it's a really good way of letting the membership know of things that are happening within your association. So those are two things that I would definitely highlight and make a note of as reps here, to try to encourage more sharing of information.
My mic's on already or not? Okay. So my question is around the presentations. Can you provide any guidelines in terms of what kind of material you might be looking for specifically from an organization? What would be useful and beneficial to the group?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think, you know, that's probably up to the association, but as a general, you know, piece, I would say, you know, what's your association all about? What's your mission? What's your vision? What is your focus? What are the things that you as an association are, you know, looking to accomplish? What are some different ways that you're doing some things? Anything that, you know, you and your association feel that you would like SEAC or the board, the greater board, to be aware of. So, you know, there might be some assumptions about some associations. You know, you hear Down Syndrome Association, or you know, you might hear Easter Seals and make an assumption on what that means, but they're often quite intricate. And it's a great chance to talk as well about some advocacy that's been happening, or some of the things you've been doing in the school system thus far, or, you know, things like that. So, you know, I would say it's really up to the association as far as what you want to present, but those are some, I think, some helpful guidelines as far as content. Great, you're welcome. Yep, Maria?
I think as a recipient of the presentations too, it's also helpful to learn about the exceptionality, like not just the association, what they're doing, but like we all know our own exceptionalities very well, but don't necessarily. And I have found that to be really helpful when other associations have presented. Like I've learned it helps us to know what those kids are all about. So if I can share that as well.
See you. Go ahead, Rhonda.
And also to bring information about any events that you're holding, because parents do read the minutes. And so they might find information about upcoming events there too.
And like I said, there's a lot. And this is not the one and only time you're going to hear these things that we've discussed tonight. These are going to be repetitive themes and items and discussion points that will happen throughout the course of our SEAC meetings. And so you'll become more familiar with them. Again, never be afraid to ask. Take a full month to sort of, digest something and come back the following month if you need to and you have a question. And there'll always be an opportunity for you to send an email to, follow up if something hits you a couple of days later. So, please remember that you don't have to know it all right now. And we'll continue to advise on information. So moving along in our agenda, item 5.1 is the minutes of the November 7th, 2022 SEAC meeting. Can I just have a show of hands of who was here for that meeting? Okay. Okay, so just because I'll need someone that was here to be able to move and second it. So.
Sorry, just one little thing.
Yeah, of course.
On the first page, it says trustees. And I think we used to have members present instead of trustees. And it shows all the people that were.
Okay.
So that's the small thing, right?
Okay, we can make that amendment. Yeah. Thanks, Rick.
And with that, I can move it.
Okay, perfect. So just in practice, in practice, you will see with every meeting package you get, it will have the agenda and all the information you'll need for the upcoming meeting. And it will also have a copy of the minutes from the previous meeting. And so if you take a look through those, it's great if you haven't been there to have a sense of what, happened, but just to take an eyeball on them if they look accurate, because we will be moving and seconding those. So Rick, you're moving?
Yes, I am moving.
Thank you. No. What do we do there? Andrea, were you here? Were you in a lead for the last? And that was I can second them, can I not? There we go, seconded. Okay, thank you. I'm used to just giving the information, not voting. So seconded. So that's great. Thank you. And also in your package, you're going to see summary of outstanding items from previous meetings. And so, oftentimes, and Steffi's referenced this, oftentimes we have great conversations. And even as we're writing down and making notes about subcommittees and things like that we should take a look at. But we always have great conversations, and oftentimes we get really excited and we're like, okay, we should try this and we should try that. And so we can't always get to those. And sometimes those items will become part of a business arising. And, sometimes they come to fruition, sometimes they don't. But the idea of it is to say, like, where are we at? Who's responsible? What's the timeline? And so that at least we have those that we can reference at each of our meetings. And we can decide as a group, are we still moving forward with this? What's happening with this? Is it still going on? And so in your package, you will see the business arising from the previous SEAC group, because there were some items on there that may still be applicable for this group here. Does anybody have any questions at all on the business arising that we have there? So moving right along, item number 7 is special education board policy review. We don't have any policies to review this evening, but that is, again, as Stephanie had commented, there will be times, we have a policy meeting tomorrow evening, there will be policies that may be of special interest to our SEAC committee, and as such, those policies will come to our SEAC meeting for input and review from our SEAC members. We just don't have any this evening. Any action or information items? We don't have any communication to SEAC. So communication to SEAC will be, there will be times, and it'll start to ramp up now that we're back into a new term of SEAC, where we will get communication oftentimes from other SEACs. So sometimes they will send, there may be something they're championing, perhaps they're advocating for something, or they, want to communicate with the government, and they'll be looking for other SEACs for support or just to let us know what's happening. So in those instances, we'll make sure that those communications are included for you to review, and then they can also provide an opportunity for discussion. So we as a group can sort of decide, hey, I'm really interested in what Deaf and Peel Catholic is saying here. Is that something that we want to jump on side with from an advocacy perspective? So you will see those in the packages as well. We don't have any this evening. And moving on to item 9.1 is the superintendent report. And so back over to you.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, each month I do provide a superintendent report, and it highlights a number of different either activities, training that's taken place for our staff so that you're aware and familiar with what's been happening across the system. So with regards to International Day of People with Disabilities, HCDSB recognized the day of December 3rd with activities over the course of the week of November 28th. And I do want to thank Jody, our coordinator, and Denise Colley, who's our chief speech and language pathologist, for their leadership in supporting and raising awareness for this day. We had a life skills dance that was held on December the 8th at Corpus Christi. It was an excellent event. The kids had a wonderful time, and that entailed having students from all of our secondary schools make their way to Corpus Christi for the dance. It was wonderful to be able to host this amazing event after a 2-year hiatus. So the kids were so excited, and Corpus Christi did an excellent job. Every detail was taken care of in hosting the students from across the system. With regards to professional development, we have a number of updates. Our school board donated with regards to SEA, which is equipment, whether it's tech or mobility equipment. We donated 3 trucks of decommissioned mobility equipment to an organization called For the Needy, Not the Greedy. So in January, we will be starting a technology training pilot with 4 schools to focus on building teacher efficacy and skill in the use of assistive technology, as well as building student confidence and skill in using technology as a tool to access curriculum. Blind Low Vision will be hosting a workshop for teachers and CERTs who support our blind low vision students that are using iPads to access the curriculum. And when I think about possible presentations in the future, I do think it would be really worthwhile to have a presentation regarding SEA, because we support every exceptionality across the system with such equipment. So I think that would be of interest to this group. The After School Skills Development Program has started. We are running 2 social skills training groups: children's friendship training for students in grades 2 through 7 and peers for students in grades 7 through 12. There are 4 locations in each geographical area of the board, and we have 26 staff who are supporting 47 students. And this is all happening after this end of day, so after work, after school day. And I'm really grateful to that staff who continue to sign up and offer that additional support to our kiddies. So we are very grateful. And we held our November FOSS, which is a family of schools, which is the model that we use across our system for, high school and elementary groupings. So we held our November FOSS meeting for all of our elementary CERTs and SETs, CERTs being special education resource teachers and SETs being special education teachers. These meetings are hosted monthly, and the agenda for this day included a presentation from curriculum on the new literacy resource that they recently rolled out to our primary grades. And we continued with reading training and early literacy. It's called the RRST, an early literacy screening tool. And one of our community partners, which is Erin Oak Kids, presented on OT, occupational therapy supports in our board, and our itinerant deaf and hard of hearing CERTs presented on supporting the DHH learner. So it was very well received by our staff, and a lot of diversity in the presentations that took place. One of the resource services consultants from the Trillium Demonstration School also presented to our consultants in iCERTs on the program that they offer for students with severe learning disabilities to support academic, social, and emotional growth. It's really important to have those partnerships with our community to be able to involve them in some of the training that we're offering our staff. We hosted the first of 3 program services, CLCs, Catholic learning communities. Boy, we use a lot of acronyms. On the November PA Day, professional activity, the presentation to student success and curriculum looked at how we support life skills students in the transition to post-secondary, whether that is community or workplace. The special education consultants presented at a recent NTIP in-service new teacher induction program. So we presented for all new teachers that have been hired by our board. The presentation included our philosophy of special education, our tiered model of support, and the process to receiving special education supports in our board, as well as a review of resources available to support new teachers around all things special education. We really want our new staff to be familiar with where to access help for any of the students that they're supporting. Day 3 of 4 days of Empower training took place at the board office on December 3rd for all of our new certs who are running Empower this year. Empower is an intensive reading program that is supported through Toronto Sick Kids Hospital. We have really expanded that program in the last 3 years. We had one teacher teaching 4 different schools, so it's an hour program, reading intervention. And we have multiplied to almost every single school in our board in the last 2 years with a variety of pockets of temporary funding. So really proud of the work of that team. An introductory self and match training session was held virtually on November 29th. Self and match is a self-monitoring intervention and motivational system that is firmly grounded in the principles of applied behavior analysis. It is a valuable tool that can be implemented with an individual student, class-wide, or as part of a school-wide positive behavior intervention and support. The ESL staff presented, English as a second language, presented to our consultants and iCerts on the supports offered by our ESL staff and focused on the collaboration between ESL and special education for those students who are receiving their support and who may also require special education support. So it's really a nice collaboration to be able to work with that team. And last but not least, on November the 25th, we had our professional activity day, and we had a day specifically planned for our educational assistants. And it focused on health and safety of staff with processes that were reviewed from a system lens, human resources, and special education. It was very well received by our educational assistants, and we certainly value their time and all the work that they do, and happy to support them in their ongoing learning as well. So those are all of my highlights. You will find from month to month, it's a busy place. We never have a hard time finding items to bring back. So at the end of January, when we have our next SEAC meeting, we'll be back with some January updates for everyone.
Is there any questions at all on Stephanie's report? No, I just want to make a quick comment about that organization For the Needy, Not the Greedy, for anyone that's not familiar with it. It's an organization that's completely volunteer run. And they actually take this equipment that's donated and they spend the time in-house to fix things up. And so they either will have whole pieces of equipment that people can come in and get, or they will actually, like I said, put things back together, refurbish them. And those pieces of equipment are completely free to anyone who has a child that requires them. So there's a small fee if there's an adult that goes in there, but if you ever walk in, you get excited about equipment. It is wall to wall, anything you could ever imagine, from hospital beds to walkers to wheelchairs to everything. And again, it's completely free for any family that has a child that requires that equipment, and there's no limit on what you can take. So that is amazing. I'll just tell you, there's parents that go there on a regular basis looking for very specific items. Equipment is very expensive. And it's hard to come by. And so they wait for these types of donations and they go in and capitalize on that. So this is a huge, huge initiative and it'll help numerous families. So I'm grateful for that donation for sure.
Yeah, just a question, Madam Chair. How do you find this? How do you, or can we recommend it? Can anyone go? I might have missed that. I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, it's located in Niagara Falls. They do take a month off in the fall to recuperate from everything that they've done. But if you go on their website, For the Needy, Not the Greedy, it will give you their specific hours. Sometimes they'll recommend calling in advance if you're looking for a specific piece of equipment, they can tell you if they have it or not. But when I say they have everything, they literally have everything. So it's completely open to the public. You can drop in at any time. And yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So like I said, I think it's just off of McLeod, but it's in the Niagara area. Yeah, you're welcome. And yeah, you can share that farm wide. The more people that they like everybody to know, for sure. So over to you, Trish, for the trustee report.
Thank you. So I will just do a quick run through, and forgive me if I'm kind of messing this up because this is the first time. I was volunteering to read it. I didn't know I was volunteering to write it. So yeah, bear with me. So on November 15th, the inaugural meeting and installation ceremony for the new Board of Trustees was held at St. Thomas Aquinas. The Bishop of Hamilton, Most Reverend Douglas Crosby, and the Honorable Mr. Justice Joseph Bragomeni officiated. Myself, along with 8 other trustees and 3 student trustees, were sworn in, of which 5 of us were brand new to the role. So like I said, please go easy. We had our first proper board meeting here on December 6th. Trustees have all been assigned to committees. That's why I'm here. That's why our 2 alternates, Emma and Chris, and Brenda, were your SEAC trustees. Appointments of the SEAC representatives for December 22 through November 26 passed unanimously. Well, you're all here. The 10th annual Keeping Christ in Christmas concert or contest, they actually came and presented at our last board meeting. It was so cute. They had over 400 entries. We narrowed it down to 16 finalists, and they performed. The entries can be found, the winners, sorry, can be found online. Christmas card sales from that raised over $9,000. The draft audited financial statements are approved. They're available on the website as well. Staff census, that was completed. Results are up online. They're actually really interesting and worth checking out, the whole census. There's a lot of different information. Student trustee update. This was kind of cool. There's not SEAC, but it's SEC, Special Ed Committee, Spec Ed Committee, is that what it is? On the Senate, passed a motion at their last meeting to send a message to library services asking to prepare a display of books that highlight challenges and triumphs of neurodivergent people. And the libraries prepared a list of 8 books at the elementary level and 9 at the secondary level. One of them I thought was really cool. I read this, Out of My Mind and Planet Earth is Blue. That's a cool one for elementary kiddos. And A Kind of Spark was recommended at the secondary level, which is a phenomenal book. It just aims to bring awareness, greater sense of compassion and understanding to students, get them to be better allies to the neurodivergent and or students with disabilities in the schools. We also had Superintendent Cordero presented the results from the IB feasibility study. Moving forward, we are establishing an additional IB program in Milton at St. Kateri, and that's September 2025, correct? No, did I get that wrong? Right? Right, okay. Told you I'm new. And that's pretty much it for our end, I think. Do you have anything to add, Trustee Agnew, Madam Chair? Okay.
No, you did a good job. Is there any questions at all on the, yeah, go ahead.
I just have a quick question about the list of the books by the librarians. Any idea where that list can be found?
If you give me a minute, I will find it. Yeah, I think it was in our report. Yeah.
I can definitely gather the information and send it out to all of the SEAC members if that's of interest. Perfect, yeah, I'll make a note. Is there any other questions at all on the trustee report? No, okay. The next is item number 10, which is SEAC discussion item or questions. Is there anyone that has anything they want to bring forward for the SEAC discussion? We put this on the agenda for, there's, sometimes during the course of the conversation at the table or something happens or there's an idea that comes forward that you've sort of thought about, we put that there as a placeholder so that we can encourage those conversations. So sometimes we have things come up, sometimes we don't, there's no pressure, but it's there. So if there's anything that ever comes up that you want to bring forward as far as a SEAC discussion item or question, please know that it's there. So meeting summary and next steps, we have a couple of things we're going to send out. So we've made a note of some of the items to follow up on, like the list of books, we'll get that out to you. So I've got a bunch of notes here for things that we'll send out. We're going to find out about the resolution situation. Yeah, and I just want to comment as well while we're talking, just before we get to the next agenda. If you do have anything you'd like to see on the next agenda, please just send it via email to myself and the vice chair and Superintendent Ballo. We can take a look at it. As we said, we're going to be bringing forward a draft calendar. Sometimes there's chance to put things in for the next meeting, sometimes there isn't. But if there's something you would like to see in an upcoming meeting, please let us know. And we can take a look and either find time to slot it in, or it could be something that we can reference, to via an old presentation or whatnot. So a couple of things for our meeting summary and the next steps. Our next meeting is Monday, January the 30th. We'll be back here again in person. We didn't have any notices for absenteeism, correct? Okay, so we don't need a resolution for absenteeism. So, yep, sorry, Maria, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, just with respect to the next meeting. So there was a few items on the business arising. I couldn't read it from here or pull it up fast enough, but there was a few items from last term with respect to clarification on some parts of the code of conduct and guidelines. And I just thought that would be helpful to do sooner than later with having a new group. To sort those things out as we start our term. So I thought that might be good to have on the next agenda.
Great, thank you. On to item number 14, which is our adjournment and closing prayer. So I will need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
Moved by Rick, seconder. Andy, thank you very much. And if you turn to the package you received this evening, this one, the one that you have, it does have our closing prayer in there. So if you will all join me in the sign of our faith. Oh, we also have it up there. Perfect. So in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Blessed are you, O God of all creation. Each day you spread before us the rich and wonderful diversity of the human family, created in the divine splendor of your love. Fashioned in your image, you call us to love one another with the same tender care with which you brought us to creation. Each one of us is but one small part of the glory that is you. As we serve the students and families of the Halton Catholic District School Board on the Special Education Advisory Committee, fill us with your grace, guide us with your wisdom, and give us the strength and courage to do your work, so that it may always be said of our every act, God saw that it was good. Holy Spirit, amen. Wonderful first meeting, everybody. Thank you so much to all of you for being here again. It's so wonderful to see you. I look forward to our next meeting, and please, anything that comes up in the meantime, do not hesitate to reach out and let us know. We'd be happy to assist.